I'd bet you'd be surprised if this wasn't the first modding video that I posted about the new Supra. What makes this car really interesting is that no mods exist for this car yet. So luckily for me, I've partnered up with a couple companies in the past that we have very good relationships with, and Universal Air is one of them. They're making a house call today to help develop the first set of bags on the market for the Mark V. In the world of suspension for the Mark V, the only things that I've seen that are publicly been announced are actually for sale at the moment are KW coilovers. Now, as you guys know, coilovers aren't always our first choice, and for this car, it's not gonna be my first choice. Now, I'm not gonna go ahead and explain to you the depth of where this Mark V is gonna be going, but I will let you guys in on this secret that we are gonna be doing an air suspension setup on this car. And originally, I didn't wanna film this video, so if it seems a bit impromptu, that's because it is. I was gonna try to keep this a secret, but I thought, as we're pulling these pieces apart, and as we're like looking at it for the first time on the lift, I should go ahead and show you guys that, because there really isn't that much information about this car out there yet, and I thought, who better than me to be the first one to show you guys all that stuff. Our special guest today is Zach from Universal Air. Now, Zach, tell me, what would be your job description that you do at Universal Air?
A couple things here and there. Do a lot of the actual development of the products, do a lot of the design work, help with the engineering, and my goal is to make vehicles actually ride good, not just look good on the ground.
Is it safe to say that you're responsible for the air setup on my BRZ and my RX-7?
Yes.
And the setup on Kevin's BMW?
Yes.
And the setup on Calvin's BRZ?
Yes.
My man out here. Diving into today, before we kind of get into the discussion that we had earlier versus retaining the stock struts versus replacing them completely, right now you're taking measurements for actually designing and pretty much creating the airbag system for the car, is that right?
Correct, yeah. I'm trying to make the mounts to actually locate this bag in here, so that way it'll clear this arm, clear these massive axles that are in here, and the shock absorber. So we need to adjust our sizing to fit, so that way everything stays clear and gives you as much travel as possible.
When measuring out the rear, what are the exact things that you're measuring for when you're looking at the rear? Because when I first looked at this when we had it up, it initially looks, to me, very complicated. Like there's a bunch of arms everywhere. There doesn't look to be that much room. But when you're looking at this, what are the first things you're kind of looking for to see if something is possible or how to make it work best?
Well, everything's really possible, just a matter of what our approach is gonna have to be to get it in there. For me, what I'm looking at is basically I remove the spring out, I throw this bag in place of it, just to kind of see where we're at and compress it up. From there, I'll adjust it in and out, depending on what we need for clearance-wise, left and right between this front axle and this back toe arm. Then we also have the shock absorber on the outside that we need to keep it away from. So from there, just a matter of connecting dots from the bag to the actual body to keep everything accurately located. We're gonna build something to go up inside this upper nipple section, and then we'll build one to go down inside this lower control arm section as well.
Pretty much the same process to figuring out to make it work in the back is the same process that you're gonna be using in the front of the car, is that right?
For the most part, the front is quite a bit different because it's an actual strut, so we actually have to work on designing up how we're going to make the strut itself in order to get it to mount to the vehicle properly. Or we can also reuse the factory struts. It just, on this vehicle, it's not going to get down quite as low as I would personally like, but you will be able to keep that factory active damping system.
So this is actually my first time seeing this car in a lift and actually getting a closer look at the undercarriage of this car. I really don't even have to say much because you guys are gonna see it right off the bat, but it's very, very, very BMW, which is no surprise. Before we get too much farther into today's video, I wanna say thank you to our sponsor, Ring. Ring is a home security system that literally has everything you need, from a video doorbell to motion sensors to video security. I actually have a Ring system installed on my house, which I have shown you guys before. I actually have this product and I use it every single day on my own home. Some of my favorite features about the app are the fact that I have a camera that has motion detection on it. So at any moment when anyone comes up to my front door, I actually get a chime on my phone that says, hey, there's motion outside your front door. And I can open up and I can actually see a live view of what's going on outside of my own house. And if you want to, I can actually talk through the phone and it projects outside of my front door and I can actually talk to whoever's outside. It always makes me feel super, super safe in knowing that my house is protected while I'm not there. As you can see, I have a live feed on my phone of what's going on, as well as updates around the neighborhood of suspicious activity that I can always read up on and check on if I ever want to. This is something that I highly suggest you have for your home if you you have the option to get it. And right now, because you guys are viewers of this channel, Ring is giving you guys a special offer to get something for yourself. The kit includes a video doorbell and a Chime Pro, which is what you need to start building a Ring security for your home today. So don't sleep on this, protect your house, and go to ring.com/TJ Hunt. That's ring.com/TJ Hunt. Thank you so much, Ring, for sponsoring today's video. And now let's go get this Supra where it needs to be. The way the fender liner is, to the way the ducting is laid out, to the stamping on the suspension arms, it's all BMW, which in my opinion is a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing because it means it has a lot of tech and a lot of features, but it's also a bad thing because it means it has a lot of tech and a lot of features. And that's actually one of the issues that we were actually kind of just running into. I'm not gonna say issues, but more so say conversations that need to be had, especially in the early stages of R&D, and more so on the early stages of STEMA being right around the corner. There are two options in which we can make a bag setup work on this car. One, it's replacing everything entirely, meaning you take out the struts from the front, which have the spring attached to it, and in the rear, you remove these struts and you remove the spring setup and replace it with all new ones. The problem in doing that, you lose the features that I was telling you about, those features being active dampening. And at first, you might be like, why do you even care? All your other cars, you've ditched all those types of features that have an automatic connection with the car. You're gonna be going full send anyway. Why would you even care about it if you're gonna be back in your car? And the reason why I care right now and why this is really a discussion that's being had is because the active dampening in this car works very, very well. And over the short few days that I've owned this car, I've actually really enjoyed the feature of having active dampening. Now, what does active dampening really mean? When I'm driving the car in comfort mode, which is its normal sport mode, the tune, I wouldn't say tune, but the shifting ratios are a lot different. It rides a lot smoother because the dampening means it's a little bit more loose. It absorbs bumps a little bit more, and the exhaust, rather than being open, is actually closed. So it's actually significantly quieter. Now, when you go into sport mode, everything changes. The exhaust therefore opens up, the car gets louder, the handling gets a little bit stiffer, you feel a little bit more bumps, and the car actually drives like it kind of has some pep behind it and shifts a little bit quicker. And it's great. It actually reminds me a lot of the Ferrari when you go from sport to race. This car does a really good job at that. We can retain those features, but only doing so by keeping the stock struts in the car. Now, there is a major drawback to that, and I'm gonna let Zach explain what that would be.
When it comes to actually keeping the struts in the vehicle, if we keep the stock units in there, which are actually right here on the outboard side, they have these little units attached to them which will change the valving inside to make it either softer or firmer depending on what mode you have it set inside the vehicle. Downside to them is that they're usually on the longer side for like a stock height vehicle. We're trying to bring it down a lot lower, and by doing that we need to be able to have a strut that's able to go short enough to get it down where we want it, but yet have enough travel so when we raise it up to drive we have good suspension movement to follow the road. As it sits right now, it looks like we're basically at the top of the tire. Once we get in there and start playing with it, we can usually get a little bit more out of it, but kind of doing some rough measurements, it's not going to be as low as ideal compared if we make new struts for it, but you will keep that active damping feature available to the vehicle.
And the first question that I asked Zach was, well, how low are we actually talking about? Are we talking like sitting with a gap between the tire and the fender, or is the tire going to be tucked, or is the wheel going to be tucked? And your answer to that was more or less the tire should be tucked, but your wheel isn't going to be buried up.
We're right there at basically top of the tire at the fender. Now, this is of course on the lift, you put on the ground, you get a little bit more, but reasonably it's not going to be tucked in the lip of the wheel.
So more or less what that means is that if we keep the stock struts, we're not going to be able to air out as much as if you were to do a whole new aftermarket strut. Keeping those dampening systems in the stock struts mean that we have the luxury of keeping it soft and then making it harder when we want, but at the same time, whereas bags are typically known for just burying the wheel up in the wheel well and making it very, very obvious on bags, we might lose that feature. Not lose, but we might sacrifice just a little bit. This is pretty much my own choice and kind of why I want to talk to you guys about it. If we were to ditch the active dampening and just do a whole new strut setup entirely, we'd be able to go as low as you want, but then we'd lose that feature. In my opinion, maybe we make a V1 version of this kit and then later down the line they make a V2 version. I'm kind of on the fence of keeping the stock struts and losing, I was going to say low ability, but losing the height per se. You'd still be able to go up all the way, but you wouldn't be able to like lay frame on the ground, which as you guys know, it's never really been my biggest concern when bagging cars. My biggest reason is why I like bag cars is because when you wide body stuff, it just makes the car that much more drivable going around town, because when you wide body a car, you change the fender arches and typically the car naturally at its normal ride height will sit lower than what it was at a stock body. So having that height makes it very, very awesome. We're kind of like in the debate right now, me being the first one, do we just do the stock struts or do we do an aftermarket strut? But I want to hear you guys' comments down below. What do you guys think? Do you think that we should ditch the active dampening and just do an aftermarket strut so we can air out to the ground? Or or should we keep the active dampening to where we can air out moderately low, so it's visibly low when you're parked and you're airing out, and you still have the height, but you keep the active dampening. Right now, this is what it would look like if the car was using these stock struts and we had an air system on the car and it was completely aired out. From this view, it looks like it would get pretty low, and considering that this is the middle of the wheel, I feel like we'd be able to at least tuck tires. We're gonna go ahead and try to throw on this stock tire and just see where it sits. Go, baby, go. Go, baby, go. Wow. Hey, that's not bad.
And the bump stop's still on.
Yeah, but the lip's still shown.
After initial thoughts, I mean, is that more than you thought it would go down?
I want it to be right here.
Yeah, okay. So
That's how I like to set them up. I like them on the ground. Like laid out flat, lift up high, and have a good ride.
So let me just show you what he's looking for, because it's pretty dramatic.
This is Zach's car, okay? So that's like pretty gnarly, pretty aggressive.
We've never been that gnarly on our channel. Let's just say, if you were to throw a wide body kit on this car, not saying we're going to, but if you were, and it would go lower, you would be sitting pretty good.
Yeah, but it needs to be right there.
Oh my.
Oh, wow.
Oh, it's actually going lower, dude.
Oh, it's going,
Way lower.
Tucking lip.
It's the lip of the wheel's up in there now.
It's also perspective.
damn.
Looking down instead of looking up.
Yeah,
Not
damn.
bad, it's just not.
That is, oh boy. Yeah, I like that.
As good as this looks, this was actually the easy part, as Zach was telling me. The front, you're saying is gonna be a little bit more tricky, right?
The front, because it's not as leveraged as the rear is, you're not gonna get as much travel. So as far as tucking goes, front arches usually a little bit higher than the backs. So the amount of tucking inside is not gonna be this, unfortunately.
But on the brighter side, that went a little bit lower than expected, and that still has the bump stop. So maybe we might get lucky and might have a little bit, but what you're saying is true. So like looking at this front compared to the rear, can you point out like what exactly you're like more so talking about?
Well, the fender arch itself is a lot higher on the body compared to the back. So like if you look at here, it's basically at your door handle.
Oh, right,
and the,
right.
And the rear fenders are a couple inches lower. And the next thing is that we're gonna have to keep it, depending on what wheel offset you go with, we might have to keep the bag over the tire. So it may or may not go down as far. And then there's some rib reinforcement in here. We might need a clearance if you wanna keep these struts. So there's quite a few other things we gotta do with it. Of course, we can always try it out and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I'm like really leaning towards trying to keep the stock struts, especially seeing the glimmer of hope with the rear, just because I really love the ride quality of it so far. Like I've really been enjoying that, so.
What we can do is we can do it with the stock struts, try it out. And meanwhile, I'll start making a new set of struts for it, so when you change your mind, we'll have them ready for you.
That or when everyone else out there is like, yeah, that's cool and all, but we'd rather have the struts replaced, they can get that from you guys.
I might be the only one on this setup, but that makes me super happy. I am shocked on just how that looks so far. I guess this is just a test, but it's more or less
Oh, the rear
the
is
same
no problem.
thing.
Rear will sit right there.
Yeah.
You just gotta make the bags to fill up the gap. It's just the front, still gotta see how low to go and how much you're gonna have to modify it.
Now listen, before you go ahead and comment down below how bags aren't as good as coilovers, one, I just suggest you do your research and understand what you're really trying to say, because bags can operate just as good as coilovers do when set up properly. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna let you guys go ahead and beat each other up about it down below in the comments, but I am very, very excited for this, and it's gonna take quite a bit before we get the actual product. So now that we got all R&D and we got all the testing and we know where we're gonna start, now it's up to UAS to kind of develop it, bring it to us, and then we can install it and see how it goes. That being said, now that we have the bags underway, you guys already know we're gonna get the Endo CVT from Acura on the way and get that ready to go. I'm very, very excited to get this car on air, and I'm excited to be the first ones to be doing it. If you want to see more of the Mark V Super content, be sure to subscribe and hit that notifications button so you get notified when the videos are uploaded. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace out, and keep moving forward.